Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to the Midlife Revolution. I'm your host, Megan Connor. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so glad to be back with you again. Thank you so much for being patient with me. We are going to talk about some intentions for the coming week. We're going to talk about some positive affirmations so that we all start off the week well. And we're going to talk about a big announcement that I have for going forward. But first, I have a story to tell you. I just want to say hello to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all of you subscribers and channel members. Thank you so much for being patient with my technical difficulties. It seems like no matter what I do to set up, I always have something go crazy. Hi to Ashley. Thanks for being here and moderating. Hello to everybody. I don't want to miss anybody, but I've got Stephanie, North Wildings, Holly, Terry. Who else do I have here? I thought I saw Gina, Terry, R1133, Rocco McSpunky. Great to see you as always, Margaret. Hi, how's it going? So I just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to join. I know that sometimes the notifications for the lives don't go out until I actually go live. And so I just wanted to say hi to everybody for a second while people got their notifications and came on in. Hi, Diane. Hi, Lori in Texas. Thanks for being here, you guys. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks. As you know, I was traveling for a little while, and then as soon as I got back home, things sort of blew up work-wise, and then I had to go travel a little bit to meet with some people, and so I was out for almost another week. And when I got home, it was craziness because my two dogs are here, obviously, and then my my partner's dog, Gus the dog, also stayed here. And so I had 3 dogs in my house, and it was crazy trying to clean up for that after I got home. So that and just things kind of went crazy work-wise this last week. And so I do have an announcement about all of that. But first, I'm going to share with you a story. We're going to get in our magic time machine, and we're going to go back to, how far back should we go? Let's go back to 2006. In 2006, I started my master's degree at Texas State University in vocal performance with the goal of singing opera as a career. And when I first started at Texas State, there were people in the area who were looking for voice teachers. And I don't know how many of you know about how things are in Texas, but in Texas, we do everything more than anybody else. For some reason, everything's bigger in Texas. Everything's, I don't know, the competitions are more, and everything's a competition. Anyway, let me see if I can stay on track, because definitely my medicine has worn off by this time of the day. So I'm gonna try really hard to stay on track, you guys. So in 2006, I was getting my master's degree at Texas State University, and people in the area, high school teachers in the area, were looking for voice teachers to help their students prepare for competitions. And I decided to call up the high school that was just very close to my house and find out if they needed a voice teacher. Now, the high school that's close to my house was built in 1978. And for almost 30 years, they had one choir director the entire time. And I called this gentleman and asked him if they were looking for a voice teacher to help their students prepare for competition. And he said, yes, they were. And so he interviewed me, and I decided to come in and start teaching voice lessons to high school students. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it so much. When I graduated from Texas State with my master's degree, I taught voice lessons all the way through those couple of years. And I also taught voice lessons at the middle school, where the middle school students would leave that middle school and go to the high school. And so I was teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that were then going to go to the high school that I was teaching 9 through 12. And so a lot of those students came to me in sixth grade and stayed with me all the way through high school. And it was really wonderful. It was one of my favorite jobs ever. I really loved connecting individually with students and teaching voice lessons. And that was such a fun part of my life. After I graduated with my master's degree, I went on to a couple of opera apprenticeship programs, and I sang professionally for a couple of years. And when I started doing auditions for opera companies that were a little farther away from home, things started to get more and more tense between me and my spouse at the time, who didn't want me to be away from home because we had at the time 5 young children, and managing them was really difficult, understandably. Um, he wanted me to be home all the time, but if I wanted to further my opera career, I needed to be away from home sometimes. 3 or 4 times a year, I would need to be away for a week or 2 or 3 weekends while I did performing. But it wasn't super conducive to my home life and to my marriage. And so at the end, after the end of a couple of seasons, I made the difficult decision to stop performing professionally and get my teaching certification instead. And I went to teach high school choir. So in 2009, I went to one of the inner city schools here in San Antonio, and I taught choir for the first time. And it was wonderful and also kind of terrible because it was an inner city Title I school, and the students there had a lot of struggles that were not related to school. And I didn't really feel comfortable teaching kids to sing when they were worried about whether or not they were going to have dinner when they got home, or when they were worried about the family dynamics being abusive, or when they were worried about having a relationship with a boyfriend that was abusive. So, what I like to say about that time is that I taught life skills, and then occasionally we also got to sing. It was a really interesting time, but I really enjoyed connecting with the students, and that was one of the things that I loved and cherished the most. Fast forward a little while, and I went to a different school, and then I decided to go back to the original high school that I was at and teach voice lessons. And while I was there, they had hired another voice teacher whose name was Samuel, and I asked him if he would be willing to teach voice lessons to my son, who was a freshman at the school at the time. So that was the first time that I met my partner, Samuel. We were both married at the time. And but what I loved about him was that he was a really, really excellent influence on my oldest son. He connected so well with the students, and I really loved and agreed with all of the ways that he taught singing, because he taught it as a comprehensive thing. You know, when you teach somebody to play the piano or the bassoon or the flute or the violin or something like that, you have an instrument that's separate from you. But when you are teaching voice lessons, your body is your instrument. And so it's really important to connect with the students in a way that makes them feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable enough to use their body as an instrument. And it's a really interesting thing to do that on the high school level when kids are just learning to understand how to manage all of those things. McSpunky, thank you so much for gifting memberships. I always love it when you do that. You're so generous. Thank you. It's very kind of you. So I met Samuel that year. We were both teaching voice lessons. And then the next year, the choir director at that high school, which was the original high school from 1978, where there was only one choir director, they got a new choir director the first year that I taught voice lessons there. And then at this time, after I met Samuel, the school decided to add a, an assistant director position. And I got hired to be the assistant director. So it was the head director, and then me, and then Samuel was teaching voice lessons with us there. And so I was the assistant director for about 3 years. And then the head director got promoted to the central office. And I got promoted to be the head director. And they asked me to hire an assistant director. And when I had that opportunity, there was only one person that I wanted. It was Samuel. I loved how he connected with the students. I loved the way that he taught voice lessons. And he and I had an excellent synergy where when I was having a bad day, he would show up with extra energy and vice versa. And we did really well in the classroom together. So During this time, when I was the head director and Samuel was my assistant director, we had a booster club. It was a group of parents who just wanted to donate their time and energy to the choir program because their children were part of the program and they loved the program. They wanted to do everything they could to support it. So once a month, I would meet with this group of parents and they would basically just ask me what I needed. And I would tell them what I needed, and they would get it for me, whether it was volunteers or fundraising or chaperones or whatever it was. They were totally committed to making sure that I had everything that I needed to be successful in the program, and I loved it so much. I became really close with that group of booster moms, and it just so happened that all of their students were seniors the year that Samuel and I were teaching together. And just sort of bonded over the course of that year. Every time we had a concert, the booster parents and Samuel and I, we would meet for dinner afterwards, and the students would also meet for dinner, but it would be the parents on one side of the pizza restaurant, the students on the other side, and we would just get together and hang out. So that was, several times a year. Every time there was a concert or a competition, and we got to be really, really good friends. And at the end of that year, actually, we went to the choir competition that year, and Samuel and I collaborated so well, and the students were so receptive to what we were doing that we brought home more trophies than the school had ever seen at that competition. And it was like this amazing high. We had worked so hard to get all of that done, and the students were so excited. And the very next day, the principal told us that Samuel's position was being eliminated, that I was no longer going to have an assistant director. And it was so hard to go from that euphoric high of all of that hard work being rewarded to going to the extreme low of knowing that Samuel would not be part of the team the coming year. And not only that, but I wouldn't have an assistant director anymore. So all of the responsibility of the entire program was now going to fall to me. And, that's just the way it goes in education when they eliminate a position and someone else takes over the responsibilities. There's no pay increase. You have to give more hours and more time to keep the program the same for the students. I could have cut, programs, social activities, competitions, and things like that, but I just didn't feel like that was fair to the students. And at the time, I was still very much in people pleaser mode. And so I said, sure, I'll take on that extra responsibility because it's what's best for the students. Never mind me. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. I would do things very differently now if it was the same situation, but I digress. Anyway, Samuel was excellent, and he decided instead of taking a position somewhere else in the district as a choir teacher, he decided to stay on as a voice teacher. And because he loved those kids and he wanted to continue to stay with them. And so that was a really excellent decision that he made. And by this time, I'll just say, like, every once in a while, I can see what's going on in chat. I don't get to read all of them. But Lori in Texas, by this time, I had 6 children. My oldest had just graduated from high school. She was going off to college and just trying to figure out what she wanted to do. And also, that was the year that my husband and I separated. So it was a difficult time for everybody. There was a lot going on, and to have that blow of having the assistant director taken away at such a critical time in my life when, I separated from my husband in February of that year. And almost immediately after our separation, Samuel and I took the students on a trip to New York City. It was planned way in advance. And my former spouse had already planned to come. His ticket was bought, all of that stuff. So he came on that trip with us. Newly separated, 2 weeks, 2 weeks separated. And so that was super awkward, but it was just part of life. It was what was going on at the time. And it was just a difficult time for everybody. So anyway, again, I'm getting off track. What I wanted to come back to is that the group of booster parents and Samuel and his wife and I just all remained friends. And we continued to get together every couple of months and have dinner and talk about their kids and their experience in the program, and we just became really, really good friends. We were very close. And I'm trying to think about where this story really goes next because there's so many directions. Um, anyway, I continued to teach. Samuel continued to teach voice lessons up until pretty close to the fall of 2019, right before the pandemic started. And I was starting to become pretty disillusioned with the way things were going school wise. With all of the extra demands on my time and not being able to really show up for my kids the way I wanted to, and also being a single mom and recognizing that my children were going without because I wasn't getting paid very much as a teacher. All of these things sort of started to mix together in my mind, and add to that school shootings and add to that additional training that we had to undergo. And I was feeling really, really pressured with all of this additional time. And I started the 2019 school year. One of the very first meetings that I had when I came back from summer break that year was about a new tutoring program that they are they were implementing a new tutoring program that required us as teachers to flag any students who are failing our class. And there was an extra time period that took a little bit of time away from lunch and a little bit of time away from all of the afternoon classes, so that if a student was failing and they got flagged, they could go to the teacher who flagged them and get extra help to try and make up for the failing. Now, that seems like a great option. It seems like a great idea to help students who are failing. But what really ended up happening is that we had to spend a lot of extra time monitoring students' grades and taking the time to go into the system and flag them on the appropriate day, because it wasn't just every day, it was just only on Tuesday and Thursday, and then sometimes on Friday. And then the teachers who were having to do interventions with the students had to prepare extra material for those intervention times so that they could catch up on whatever was happening with them. And so it ended up being a huge extra burden on the teachers and a drain of time. And I remember when they first introduced this program, there was kind of an open Q&A where the teachers got to ask questions. And I remember one teacher raised his hand and he said, so this is going to take away from my lunchtime. And also I'm going to have to do an additional preparation for tutoring time. And so I'm just wondering if there's going to be additional compensation for this flex time that we're going to use to intervene with students who are failing. And there was an audible hush that fell over the auditorium where all of us teachers were sitting together and all of the administrators were standing up near the stage. And the principal had the microphone. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not willing to make this sacrifice for the students, then maybe you shouldn't be a teacher. And to me, it really echoed over all of the times that I had been asked to give and give and give and give and sacrifice of my personal time to give more to the students. And every time that I got shamed for not making those sacrifices and for not being willing to do more and more and more and to just give without question, without compensation, without recognition. And it really just sat very badly with me. I did not like it. I thought, here I am as a teacher who came into this position as two teachers. And I sort of referenced this before, but in Texas, we do everything crazy. Not better, just bigger and crazy. So as a choir teacher, I was also technically the sponsor of the choir club, which had competitions and fundraisers and all those things. And so we were preparing for competition almost the entire fall and a lot of the spring. And the competition in the fall was an individual competition. It was voluntary, but the administrators expected us to send kids to this competition. They expected us to have kids do well at this competition because our job performance was, based largely on the number of kids that we got into the special choir that they were auditioning for. So every day after school on, all of the days of the week that we could during the entire month of August and September, we were tutoring kids for a competition that would happen in October. And then in October, every single Saturday, we were judging competitions and running competitions and getting our kids ready for competitions. And then in November, the honor choir performed. And so there were 2 Saturdays in November that we were required to be there. We didn't get any extra compensation for any of those Saturdays or the extra time. It was just assumed that we were going to do that to have a good program. The same thing happened in the spring when the whole choir would get together for a competition. We would do extra rehearsals afterwards. My mixed choir, men and women, didn't get to meet during the school day. So every single Tuesday night during the school year from August until June, we met every Tuesday night for 2 hours to rehearse. So there was a lot of extra time that we didn't get compensated for. In addition, I had to run fundraisers, which meant that I had to count money, which meant that I had to do extra accounting. And I had an account for my what do you call it? I had an account for my sheet music. I had an account for my piano tuners. I had an account for my accompanists. I had an account for uniforms. And I had to keep track of all those extra accounts. And that's not something that falls within the just job description of a regular teacher. It was something that I also had to do on the side. All of that to say um, that I spent a lot of time doing a lot of tasks for which I was not compensated. And I did it because I loved the job. I loved connecting with the students. I loved being a positive influence in students' lives. I paid attention when our school counselors did training at the beginning of the year, and they told us that LGBTQ students who had even one adult in their lives who was validating and supportive reduced the suicide rate by 50%. I paid attention when those same counselors said that children who are abused in their homes, if they have one supportive adult outside of their home, they are more successful 80% of the time over the students who don't have a supportive adult outside of the home. So I knew that sometimes I was the only adult in those students' lives who treated them with kindness and respect. And I took that very, very seriously. I made my classroom a safe place for my students, and I invested in them, and I taught them not just about singing, but about the poetry that went with the songs and about the history of the Bible verses and the um, the slavery movement, where the only hope that they had to hang on to was those gospel songs that they sang. And I taught them that the gospel songs were not just about Jesus, they were about leaving their master. They were about hope for a better world after slavery ended. I taught them a lot that had nothing to do with choir, and I took that job very seriously. And I think very fondly about the time that I had to connect with those students and to be a positive influence in their lives. I loved it so much. But it became harder and harder to weigh that love of students against what I was experiencing on the administrative side and on the side where I was being asked to sacrifice my time with my children because I had jobs to do and I was a single mom at the time. So I started becoming disillusioned with the teaching profession in general, and I started looking around for other solutions. Now, going back to our booster club parents, that group of parents became known as the rhinos. And it's kind of a silly story why, so I won't get into it right now, but I'll just say that the booster moms whose students were all seniors in that year that Samuel and I taught together, and their husbands, we all got together every couple of months and had dinner, and we talked and we commiserated and we just supported each other. One of those booster parents happened to own a business. And at one point, when I was sort of commiserating about the teaching experience, he said, I might have some consulting that you could do. And I said, sign me up. I'd be happy to do it. When I was an undergraduate, I did a lot of marketing. I actually took 60 hours of business courses as part of my undergraduate degree. I've always been entrepreneurial, and I have a lot of skills in that area. And so I thought that it would be a great fit for me when he said that he had a software program that he wanted to market. And so he owned a property tax business. And so he hired me as a consultant in the spring of COVID year when we were spending a lot less time with competitions and things because we couldn't be in person. And so I had a lot of hours that normally were taken up with school business, which I could now use for other things. And so I did some consulting for him. I really enjoyed it. He was very generous with paying me. And at the end of that assignment, I said, if you ever have something open up, I would be open to leaving teaching and coming to work with you. And he sort of hedged and hemmed and hawed, and he said, I'm not really sure if I have something permanent, but I'll let you know if I do. And he had some hangups about it. So COVID happened. Choir was terrible during COVID. We couldn't sing, we couldn't meet in person. It was a really terrible situation for everybody involved. In addition, my administrators were telling us that when we come back in the fall, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get a waiver if you care for people who are in a risk category. Now, this is rewinding a lot to COVID stuff that we have learned a lot since then about COVID, about what it is and what it isn't. But at the time, we did not know what we didn't know. And I had two kids at home who were in risk categories, one type 1 diabetic and one with asthma. And I was being asked to go into the classroom with not very much protection, with no vaccine, not knowing if I was going to get exposed in the classroom and then bring COVID home to my two at risk children. And I finally just made the decision that my kids were more important than anything that I was going to do in the school. And I decided to jump. I decided to quit teaching. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. I hated leaving my students. There were lots of tears on both sides, and it was just really difficult. And I did this crazy thing that I've advised all of my children never to do. I quit my job at teaching before I had another place to land. And part of that was I had a little bit of money set aside, and in my particular school district, they only paid us for the 10 months that we taught, but they broke that 10 months of pay into 12 payments, if that makes sense. So we got paid the same amount every month. I guess they didn't want teachers claiming unemployment over the summer or budgeting poorly and running into trouble. And so I knew that I had a couple of months of pay left. I didn't want to leave my position at the end of the summer because by the end of the summer, all the good teachers have chosen jobs already. And I sort of had somebody in mind that would be great for taking over. And I wanted to leave my program in the best possible place that I could. So I contacted my friend who I thought would want to take over. And then I contacted the principal, who was a brand new principal coming into the fall of 2020. And I'd never met him before. And I just sent him an email and I said, I'm really sorry that we've never met, but I'm resigning my position. I think this person would be great to take over if you'd like to interview them. I wanted to give you enough time to get somebody wonderful into this program before the fall started and all the good teachers were taken. So I made that tough decision to leave, not knowing what I was going to do. I just completely jumped out into the unknown. And I remember my daughter sent me a tweet, and I'm not on Twitter or X. I wasn't at the time either, but one of my daughters sent me a tweet that said, hey, teachers, go form a pod school and charge X amount of dollars. You just tripled your income. You're welcome. And I thought that was a really intriguing idea because I thought, if there's a group of families who are together, they're sort of sheltering together, they're not going out into public, they're still distancing, they're just around each other. Wouldn't it be great if those few kids could do school together while the parents go to work? And if I could be a pod school teacher, I could help those kids get onto their devices and make sure that they were doing their assignments and all of that. I don't know if you guys remember how challenging it was to try and work from home and also help your kids do online school at the same time. It was a crazy, crazy time. I hope we never have to repeat anything like that again. But I thought it was an interesting idea. And so I started putting out onto my personal social media, hey, I'm interested in doing a pod school in the fall. If there are any families who are interested in sort of sheltering together and doing a pod school, I would love to help you. Well, one of the coaches at my CrossFit gym got back to me and she said, I don't know of any families, but this guy that you already know at the gym who you already work out with, he's the president of a corporation and he wants his employees back in the workplace in the fall, but he knows they all have kids who are doing remote school. And so he wants somebody to come in and run a remote school in his office so his office workers can be there and the kids can still do online school. So I met with this guy. His name is Leo. He's a wonderful guy. He's somebody that I worked out with at the gym for a couple years and had no idea what he did for a living, but he was the president of this corporation. And so I got all it's it's kind of funny to note, when I was working as a teacher, I had 2 lunch periods right in a row because I did a class that was before school. So in order to make up for me having that extra class before school, they gave me 2 lunch periods right next to each other, which was perfect because it meant that I could leave, go to the gym, work out, you know, throw on some other clothes, put my hair in a ponytail, and come back and teach my afternoon classes. So Leo was at that noon class for a year and a half. I knew this guy, we worked out together, but I had no idea what he did for a living. Found out that he was the president of a corporation. And so I got all dressed up and went to make this proposal for the pod school. Like, I figured out all the financials and all of the logistics of how this was going to work. And I came up with this big, huge proposal that I was going to show to him. And I got to his office and he showed up exactly as I had always seen him at the gym. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. President of the company. And he said, "Well, I see you got all dressed up." I mean, I was wearing my nicest clothes. I, had jewelry on. I was like wearing pearls and whatever. I was trying to put on a good impression. It turned out I could have just shown up in gym clothes. I would have been fine. So I went and made this proposal to him and we agreed this is what was going to happen. And he kept saying to me, I don't know if they're going to, they being like the board of directors of his company was going to be mad at him for spending money on a pod school. But he was like, I don't care. I want my employees in the office. This is what we're going to do. So I found a couple of rooms in the corporate headquarters that were going to work. I ordered all this furniture, all this technology. I set up this huge spreadsheet. I had 12 students who were all at different schools and they all had different online school schedules. And I just kept track of which classes that they were going to go to. And I made sure that they did their assignments outside. I hired a PE teacher to come in 3 times a week. I hired an art teacher to come in twice a week so that these kids would have as close to normal a school experience as they possibly can. And it ended up being really cool. But in October, a lot of schools started opening up to let kids come back in person. And so several of my students, including the president's children, left the pod school and went back to school. So it was pretty clear that when December came around, I was not going to have this pod school job anymore because most people were going to just go back to in-person school. And so I started contacting, again, my booster club parent who had a business. I had done some consulting for him and I said, "Hey, has anything opened up in your company? I would really love to come over." Well, it turned out that one division of his company, which was handling property taxes for bankrupt businesses, they were looking for someone to come in and sort of figure out how their division could operate more efficiently. I have a feeling that I'm going to lose my light here in just a second because it looks like it's gone dim, but we'll see what happens. If the lights go out, we'll just pause for a second and I'll come back. Anyway, so I interviewed with the person who was the head of the bankruptcy property tax division. And the only experience that I had was that one little consulting thing that I had done. But they liked what I had to bring to the table. And so they hired me to start in January. So I was supposed to start on January 3rd, which I believe was a Monday. I could be wrong with these dates. It's a little fuzzy. So I called in and I said, "Hey, just making sure that I'm going to show up on Monday and that I'm going to, be working with this bankruptcy division." And they said, "Well, the person who was going to be over you has COVID and they're not going to be in for at least 6 weeks. And there's nobody else who can really teach you what your job responsibilities are going to be. And so why don't you come in anyway? We'll get you onboarded and we'll figure out what you're going to do." So I came in that day and the parent, who was the booster club parent, was the head of the whole company. And he was one office away from the person I was supposed to be working for. And so what they ended up saying is, "Why don't you go sit in with the president of the company, who's your buddy? You know him, you guys have hung out forever. And you can just hang out with him and help him out however you can until this other guy gets back." Well, long story short, I never did end up going to work for the bankruptcy section of the property tax system. I sat in the office of my friend the first day, and I had no idea that besides the property tax business and the bankruptcy property tax business, he was also running a business shipping fuel to Mexico via rail car. And I went into his office and I sat down and he said, I'm working on lots of different projects. You'll get to know about all of them. For now, I just want you to listen to every phone call. You can sit in on every meeting and just figure out if there's something that you want to do. And so I did. I sat in on every phone call and I sat in on every meeting and I took copious notes and I Googled everything that I didn't understand, which was probably 80% of what was being said. I had no idea what it was like to try and load rail cars with fuel on the Gulf Coast and ship them across the border to Mexico and track them and get the cars back and load them again. It was just this crazy process. And he often said to me in those first few days, it takes 19 things to get a rail car across the border. And if you don't have even one of them, it's never going to work. And I remember after the first couple of days, I said, okay, you keep saying this. What are the 19 things? I was like, I'm ready. I'm going to write them down right now. Number one. And he was like, well, I just sort of say that it's not really 19 things. It's probably more like 25 things. And so he started to explain to me all of the difficulties of exporting fuel into Mexico. And I learned a lot about the Mexican government and how they operate, and also the fact that bribery is just a part of their culture. And you have nothing to do in Mexico if there's not bribery involved. And also, you have nothing to do in Mexico if the special club is not involved, whose name I won't say because the YouTube police. And so it was totally a baptism by fire. I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned. I learned very, very quickly. And it was pretty crazy. I learned about rail car logistics and I learned about what kinds of rail cars were the right kinds. And I learned about loading fuel at Gulf Coast refineries. And I learned about the pricing in all of the different places along the Gulf Coast. And I learned to track the prices and I learned to quote the prices. And eventually I became a project manager where I was in charge of making sure that our customers got in a fuel request. I would give them a quote and then they would send us money. We would send money to the refinery. We would schedule the loading of their rail cars. We would track the rail cars all the way down to their spur in Mexico and then all the way back where they would load again. And it was just this crazy world that I never thought I would be a part of. And I will never forget the very first day that um, I helped the accounting team create an invoice for our first customer. Now, rewind just a little bit because my husband had his own business and he was working in the internet field and he was doing remote IT and things like that. And I helped him with the bookkeeping and things like that. And I remember making some invoices for him that were, around in the like $12 to $1,500 range. And I remember thinking that was such a huge amount of money to bill one person for their computer expenses. And the very first invoice that I created for a customer in this business was over $1.5 million. And it completely blew my mind in the best way, in the way that I started to think about money in a very different way. I started to think about invoicing and financing literally millions of dollars of fuel, whereas before I had only really had a concept of a few thousand at a time. And it completely changed my mind. In addition, my boss was also working with some other people trying to, let's call it flip crude oil, where they would buy crude oil for the price at crude. Okay, so let's say that the oil price right now for crude oil is $80 a barrel. They would arrange to buy the crude oil at $79 a barrel, and then they wanted to sell it to somebody for $81 a barrel. And they wanted to capture the arbitrage in between, so a couple bucks a barrel. Well, when you're talking about 500,000 barrels of oil, it's a lot of money. The problem is that doesn't work. You can't really stand in the middle. If you don't have the oil, own the oil, and you don't have the money, you can't really stand in the middle and collect that arbitrage. But somehow this person that my boss was working with thought that that was possible. Now, he turned out to be a fraudster, which is a story for another time. I could probably write an entire book about this whole experience, and it would just be crazy and wild. In fact, I might actually do that. But the problem is that my boss clung on to that idea and thought it was a great idea. He thought, if I can't use other people's money to stand in the middle, somebody else is going to pay for it, and I'm just going to stand here and be a paymaster and collect some money. Sounds like a great plan. The problem is that never works, and you have to be the one with the money in order to make it work. And you have to be the one who owns the fuel to make it work for lots of reasons that I won't get into right now. But once we found out that person was a fraudster, the problem is that we did not get rid of that business model. We continued to try and make that business model work for a long time afterwards. And what I quickly found is that in the secondary fuel market, where you're not buying from a refinery, but you're buying from a reseller, and you're not selling to an end burner who's actually using the fuel, but you're reselling to a reseller, and you're trying to capture that profit in between, there is a ton of fraud. Like 90% of the deals that I saw over the course of 3.5 years were fraudulent. And I got really good at detecting fraud. And the reason why there's so much fraud is because there's so much money to be made. One of the typical scams is someone would come and say, I've got 1 million barrels of jet fuel. All you have to do is use my tank farm to store the jet fuel, and then you can sell it. And you would send money to this tank farm, and they would disappear. So they would collect tank fees, and they would never actually own any fuels. In fact, most of the time there wasn't even a tank. It was just all fake and fraudulent. And so many people have caught on to it because it was so profitable. But there's always a way to scam people out of money. And you're talking about people with sometimes more money than sense, and they get involved in these fraudulent deals because the dollar signs are so big and so attractive. And all you got to do is send me some money and you're going to make $10 million. So I got really good at detecting the fraud. And I wanted to make sure that I protected my boss from sending out money where he had gotten scammed many times before I had even come on board. And I wanted to make sure he didn't get scammed again. So by this time, I should mention, Samuel had also quit teaching and had also come to work at the same company and had also gotten divorced. And so that's when he and I started dating, is after all of that happened. That's kind of an aside, just a little secret tea for everybody. But so Samuel and I were working together with our friend who was our boss and trying to protect him from all this fraud in the industry. And we had this one particular deal come across our desk that was purported to be very, very lucrative. And it involved some fuel from an African country whose name I won't name just because I don't want to get into too many specifics, if you know what I mean. And Samuel and I did our very, very best to vet this deal and to call all the phone numbers and talk to all the people and Google all the addresses and make a comprehensive report about whether or not we felt like this was a good investment to make. And it turned out that we believed that it was fraudulent. And I wrote up an entire report about why it was fraudulent and all of the different investigations that I had done. And I presented this report to my boss and to the people who had brought him the deal in the first place. And the people who brought him the deal were furious because, of course, they wanted his money. And unfortunately, my boss had stars in his eyes, and he really wanted to believe that this was real. And he really wanted to believe that this was a real deal. And so he completely discounted the report that I made. And I believe it was a Friday afternoon when I submitted that report. And Samuel and I left and went our separate ways. And when we came back on Monday morning, we found out that what had happened is that my boss had instructed the CFO to send the money for the investment and told him specifically not to tell Samuel and I that he had done it. And that was the beginning of the end. I'm just going to pause for a moment to remember that time, because I thought that I was contributing something valuable. I thought that I was doing something meaningful. And in that moment, I realized that it didn't matter what I did or said, that my boss was going to do whatever he wanted anyway. And so I sort of reevaluated, and I started thinking about, is this a good place for me to be? Now, this is all post healing, post EMDR. I had the full ability to see his behavior for what it was. And I looked at it and realized how toxic it was. And I decided to stay anyway. And I did that because I was earning a decent salary. And I also had a lot of time freedom and flexibility. And I was able to write my book and get it published and start my podcast and do a lot of things while I was working there that I would have been able to do if I had been working a traditional job. And so I was really grateful to my boss for the gift of time, because that made me free to do some things that I was passionate about that I never would have been able to do otherwise. That gift of time freedom made me see the world in a different way. And it made me sort of take a step back from the rat race of going to work 9 to 5 and feeling stressed about scheduling doctor's appointments for kids and feeling stressed about having to spend a day home with a sick kid. And you know what? If it turned into 2 or 3 days, it was not a big deal. And that was the first time that I had a release from that pressure of feeling like I had to be so committed to my job that I had to sacrifice my family and my interests and all of my other things. So I'm really grateful for the freedom of time that I had to do a lot of things for my kids that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. I was able to help my daughter move twice. I was able to go up randomly to visit my grandson when he was born. I was able to just take time off when I needed it. I was able to be with my dad when he had his heart surgery. There were so many things I was able to do with that time that I couldn't have done before. So I was really grateful for that freedom of time and for a little bit of extra money that allowed me to finally have some margin in my life where I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck for the very first time in my life. And so I made the decision to stay, knowing that probably my ideas and my opinions and my research were not going to be valuable, but also knowing that I was doing the right thing for my family and for my kids at the time. So I decided to stay. But what ended up happening is that after that time, when I called out that fraudulent experience, my boss started sharing less and less with me. We started talking less and less about the things he was working on. And Samuel and I started moving into this arena where we wanted to talk to the people who were doing real deals and who actually did have money and who had real fuel and real tanks and real things. And the more we went to the side of real, the more we separated from our boss, who was not on the side of real, who was still in this fantasy land of throwing money at a deal and getting a huge payout. And so the separation became more and more and more. And we realized that he was trusting us less and less and less. And we used to sit in his office every single day. We used to go to lunch with him every single day. And gradually, we were in our office more and in his office less. And gradually, we weren't at lunch every single day, but every so often when we could. And the separation just got more and more. And then a couple months ago, as many of you know, the day before payday, I was told that there was not enough money to make payroll. Now, I knew this. I knew this was coming. I had seen it months and months before, because in the position that I was in, I saw all the money that came in And unfortunately, I also saw all the money that went out to pay off brokers, to pay off people who kind of just were leeches, to send huge sums of money to consultants who never really produced anything, and to send tank fees to tank farms that didn't exist. So I knew how much money was coming in, I knew how much money was going out, and I knew it couldn't last. And when I found out that they couldn't make payroll, I said, "Uh-oh, it's time. It's time to start building some safety nets." That was about around the same time that my podcast launched. Actually, had my podcast had launched maybe just a month before that. And it turned out to be kind of fortuitous timing that I started this phase when that other phase was starting to turn dark. And I looked at the handwriting on the wall and I said, I better make some contingency plans. And I started talking to some of the contacts that I made in the industry without revealing anything about what was going on inside the office. I just started telling people, I'm feeling like I'm getting to a point where I may need to go out on my own at some point. And the more that I talked to the legitimate people in the business, the more supportive they were, the more they wanted to work with me and with Samuel and not with him, because they recognized what he was doing and they recognized what we were doing, and they saw our integrity and they saw our diligence and they saw our hard work, and they wanted to work with us. And so I said, you know what? If something goes south, I think I'm going to be okay, because I felt like I had good contacts in the industry. And I felt like Samuel and I had built a reputation with these legitimate people, that they knew that we were good, that we were honest, that we had integrity. Well, Friday at 3:45, I received an email, not from my boss, who used to be my friend, but from the CFO of the company, saying that they were eliminating my position and that my monthly draw would end effective immediately. Now, the interesting thing about that is it was never a monthly draw, it was a salary, but I think they wanted to call it that because it gives them a little bit of wiggle room legally. And I was really disappointed that that email didn't come from my former friend. It came from the CFO, who is sort of the yes man of my former friend. So, what I find interesting though, and the thing that I'm celebrating tonight, doesn't have anything to do with my boss or the company or my experience or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that when I got that email, I hadn't even checked my email. It was Friday night. I was getting ready to have a good time with my kiddos. My daughter had her bestie over here. We were getting ready to make dinner. We were making some tikka masala, which is one of my favorite things to make. We were just enjoying our evening. And Samuel came by and he showed me the email on his phone. And I immediately went to my phone to see if I got the same email, and it was identical. And the thing that I love and the thing that I'm celebrating is that it wasn't even a blip on my radar. My blood pressure didn't go up a single point. I just nodded my head and I said, this is what I expected. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. And I was able to go on and enjoy a lovely evening with my daughter and her friend. We made our tikka masala, we watched Gilmore Girls, and we had a great night. And the next morning I woke up and I mowed my lawn. And then I pulled a stump out of the ground that had been bothering me. And I made a few phone calls and I connected with my friends and my support network and I told them what was going on. And the thing that amazed me is that there was zero anxiety. Where before I had had extreme anxiety about money and employment, I had so much worry and stress about whether or not I was going to be able to provide for my kids. In fact, it was the main reason that I didn't get divorced sooner, is because I was afraid that I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the fortitude to take care of my family financially, to take care of my kids financially. And what I loved is that there was not a single bit of anxiety. And the phone calls that I made, the people that I talked to were angrier than I was, and they were more upset than I was. And for me, I look back and I think I saw it coming, because now I'm at a point in my life where I have the skills and the tools to recognize toxic behavior when I see it, and to not be surprised when toxic people act in toxic ways. I'm just sort of enjoying that for a moment, that I'm at that place, because it took me so long to get here. It took so much work to get to the point where this was not a blip on my radar. In fact, these tears that are coming up right now are the first tears that I have shed at all over this situation, because I called my support network, and my friends were there for me and they're supportive. And I called a few of my contacts in the industry, and they were outraged and said, "What can we do to help you?" And I had people excited to help Samuel and I to do what we need to do to earn an income. And the other thing is that I have you beautiful humans here with me, and I'm so grateful for you. So, the big announcement that I have is thank you guys. You're super kind. Um, the big announcement that I have is that I am now officially a full-time podcaster. And this is what I'm going to be doing going forward. Over the last couple of months, um, I have acquired several new coaching clients, and I have really enjoyed the time connecting with you guys as individual people. It brings me so much joy to hear about your struggles and to be able to help give you a plan and a path forward. So, coaching is what I'm super passionate about, and coming on here and connecting with you beautiful humans is what I'm passionate about. So, this is what I'm going to be doing going forward. So, in case you want to know, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. Did you know? I bet you didn't, but I'm going to tell you. Over half of the people who watch these videos are not subscribers. So if even just a few of you who are not subscribers would go subscribe, that would really, really help the channel. And for some reason, and I haven't figured out exactly why, YouTube really loves my videos. For some reason, the more that you guys interact with my videos, the more that they push my videos out into the algorithm, and the more they get seen. I was absolutely stunned that after just 1 month after launching my podcast, that I had over 7,000 subscribers. I was absolutely stunned that some of my most watched videos had over 20,000 views. And that's because of you guys interacting with my videos. So if you subscribe to the channel, if you like the video, if you share the video with someone you think will find it helpful, YouTube will send it out into the algorithm, and it'll get seen by lots and lots more people. And reaching more people with my message is what I'm passionate about. What I love is being able to help people find the ways that is important to them to heal and to move forward and to become the best versions of the beautiful human beings that they are, that you are. So, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. I'll say that over and over. Interacting with the videos is even better. If you like the video, if you share the video, or if you leave comments on the video, that's going to help send it out into the algorithm. Those are all completely free ways that you can interact with the channel and support the channel. If you become a member, of course, that directly financially supports the channel. But I want to just reemphasize the ways that are free, because not everybody can subscribe, and that's totally fine. Or sorry, not everybody can become a member, and that's totally fine, because the free ways that you can support is to subscribe, like the videos, share them, and leave a comment, even if it's just a heart emoji or something else that lets me know that you enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for all of your support and all of your interaction with the channel. It's you guys that make the channel what it is. by your interaction here and your support here. And I just really 100% just appreciate everything that you guys do. And a special thank you to Ashley, who's here as a moderator. And I'm going to go back now and try to catch some comments. But if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I do want to spend some time for you to share what your intentions are for this coming week. For me, my intention for this coming week is to take things as they come and to savor every moment that I have and to just keep connecting with you beautiful human beings, because I just love hearing your stories. I love hearing the places where you're stuck and struggling and giving you suggestions of where you can get better. And for those of you who don't know, if you're thinking about coaching, you can sign up for a 100% free live video chat with me on my website at third-verse.com. And I love connecting with you, even if you decide not to do coaching. I just love having those quick 15-minute conversations with you guys, because connecting with real people, my mantra for the rest of my life is OQP, only quality people. I do not want to spend any more time with people who are not on their road to healing and being the best version of themselves. So I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Dom's mom, thanks for being a member. I appreciate that. I'm going to go back and look to see if I can find questions. I'm so appreciating all of these positive comments. I've seen some of them go by. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to like tag every single one and look at every single one, but I appreciate your support so much. This is making me feel really, really great. Tiff, thanks for this. Later, dudes, to that crappy company. Yeah. Thank you, McSpunky, for gifting memberships. It's so kind of you to do that. So many people appreciate that. And Lori in Texas, thank you so much. Overcoming fear is everything, and overcoming shame is everything too. That was the other thing. I was like, I didn't feel a single bit of shame. It's because it's not about me. It's obviously not about me. It's about someone else and their unhealthy choices. And I just felt no shame. It was wonderful. It is a massive win, Tiff Knox. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, my BS meter is definitely finely tuned, and I have zero tolerance for it. In fact, if I do write a book about this, it's going to be titled Executive Vice President of Bullshit, because I feel like that's what I was doing. Thank you so much, Apples, for the support, and Inner Peas for the support. You guys are just so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm loving these comments and all the kindness. You guys are making me feel like this was the right choice. So love you too, Diane L. Thank you. Yeah, this is excellent. Margaret, I don't know how this is possible, but I'm grateful that you're learning things. I've never heard this before, Holly Fabiani, but I'm going to use it, except that people are going to cringe when I do. It's okay. Yeah, this is great. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you. And doing this full time is a little scary, but it's also exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying the content. I'm glad that you're getting something out of it. Thank you. Thank you. I just can't say thank you enough. This is awesome. Can we help by making comments? Yes, you can help by commenting whenever you comment or interact with the video in any way. That really helps, and all of that stuff is free to do. So there should be a subscribe button on my channel. If you go to my channel homepage, there should be a subscribe button there. And there's always one at the end of each video as well. So thank you, Holly, for sharing. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Tiff, for liking. If everyone would like, I would appreciate it. I know there's not very many people here tonight. It's kind of a Sunday night thing. But if you guys would share this with anybody that you think would find it helpful, we are going to talk about intentions for the week. So I hope you guys are posting those while I'm highlighting these comments. You are kind-hearted, McSpunky. We love you. Thank you. And thanks for being here for the long haul. I appreciate that. How often do you see yourself releasing podcast videos per month? Right now, the plan is to go back to my regular schedule of releasing a podcast episode on Wednesday, followed by a live Q&A, and then doing a Sunday night live, just like this one, where we talk about intentions for the coming week and we set ourselves up for success. In addition, I don't know if Latter Daily Digest is still here, but I'm going to be co-hosting with them probably once a month or so. And I'm going to be collaborating with lots of different people. I know you guys don't know this yet, but I have about 4 interviews, maybe 5 interviews that are sitting in my StreamYard waiting to be edited that I've done with some fabulous, amazing people. So you guys are going to love the guests that I'm bringing on. I'm going to keep doing solo things, but I'm also going to be bringing on guests as well. And I'm super, super excited about the videos that I have lined up for you guys. The episodes are going to be amazing. I'm so excited. So to answer your question, Rando, and I like your profile picture, by the way, it's going to pretty much be twice a week, Wednesday nights. But then I also regularly appear on Hidden True Crime and Mormon Stories and Latter Daily Digest and what's Kresha Easton's channel, Difficult Research, and as well as Web Sleuths. And I'm just going to keep, showing up anywhere that I possibly can just to get out there and sort of try to build up the channel. I don't know what this is in reference to, but I support it. Funny coded messages are always really appreciated. Thank you so much. That's wonderful, Lori in Texas. I love it. Thank you, Diane. Yeah, change is really hard. And I think what I wanted to talk about mostly tonight is what happens when change comes to you. We talk a lot on this channel about making changes, like being proactive and making changes that are going to make our lives more peaceful. But when change comes to you, you don't really have a lot of choice but to radically accept it as a new part of your life and then make a decision about what you can do. And for me, taking action steps when I feel powerless or out of control, I just sit down and I journal and I think about, okay, what can I control? What can I do? Is there any action step that I can take in a direction that's going to make things better for me? And for me, it was obvious to come and start working harder on my channel and start planning more content. That's something I can do. That's something I can control because it's all about my input and what I can do. And it has nothing to do with anybody else. There's nothing that anyone else can do to change what is happening on my channel, except maybe, YouTube can shut me down, things like that can happen, but I can enjoy creating content on here without restrictions from other people. Margaret, thank you so much. This is really kind of you. I appreciate your super chat. And McSpunky, always appreciated. Thank you. For me, it's not a glass of wine. It's going to be a glass of whiskey and the good kind. Diane, thank you for saying this. You had morals. Congrats to you. And I'm assuming those are emojis that I can't see on my end over here. I appreciate your support. That's great. Sarah, thanks for this question. How are your kids doing? Are they aware of the changes? How are they handling it? That's a great question. My kids are wonderfully resilient people, and I didn't have a lot to do with it. A lot of it is how they came as human beings. But last night we went out to dinner at one of our favorite restaurants, and we had a celebratory dinner. And when we all had our glasses of soda, I did a toast and I said, here's to my last day working at that place. And they were 100% on board. And when I explained to them what had happened, of course, they were outraged and hurt because it was just a horrible way to handle that situation. And it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamic sort of plays out. But the kids are doing amazing. And then also this morning, I decided to make it Christmas in July. And I went out and bought a board game that my kids had been wanting to play. And I got some donuts and kolaches and breakfast sandwiches and brought them home, took pictures of everything, texted it to my kids and said, wake up, it's Christmas in July. And we had a great morning together playing a board game and enjoying each other. And it was a great day. It really was a great day with zero anxiety. And there's a little bit of sadness. There's a little disappointment. There's a little grief for a lot of the relationships and things, the way things went down. But for the most part, my kids are handling it great and they're just rock stars and it's amazing. Apples, I'm happy you dropped by too. And Tiff, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's really kind of you. Um, I appreciate it. And yes, Lori in Texas, I'm always happy for whatever help that you guys are willing to give, and just you showing up and being here on these lives is that fills my cup. I love it. Thank you, Ashley, for putting that link in there. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much doing the moderating all on your own tonight. That's awesome. Let me see. Yes, comments always help build algorithms. Comment on every video, even emojis. They even pay at a certain, yeah, they're at, so I will tell you guys, I was really fortunate that never thought I would say anything like the sentence that's about to come out of my mouth. I was very fortunate that Chad's trial was happening at the same time that I launched my podcast, because I think a lot of people came here for content about the trial, and YouTube sort of rewarded that because it was what people were looking for. And so for better or for worse, it helped grow my channel and it helped get me some monetization. So it was fortunate, I guess. I appreciate it. Diane, I had to leave a contentious job. I'm like you. I don't like to leave before I have another job, but had to do it for my mental health. Yeah, and I totally, totally get it. And the email that they sent me on Friday kind of left the door open for me to still do things like maybe consulting and things like that. But just not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself through that for my own mental health. So I appreciate your solidarity on that. Oh, thanks for this, you guys. I appreciate it. I was going to say I washed my hair, but I actually didn't. I mean, I washed it this morning, but then I did a bunch of yard work and I was out there in the rain and the dirt. So it's amazing that I still have hair left today anyway. Lori in Texas, thank you. I'm really, really excited about the guests that I have coming up. And I don't know if I should reveal it or not. You guys tell me what you think. Should I reveal which guests I have coming up? I don't know. Maybe you guys could tell me what guests you would like to see on the podcast. And that's the other thing. I want to cover the content that is important to you, that's special to you, that's going to help you. And so I would love it if you guys would give me some suggestions. I really appreciated that when we talked about, or at least I put up a poll on my channel about different topics I was thinking about covering, and how to heal was the one that you guys wanted the most. And that's what I ended up doing. And it ended up being great. And I think it was the right thing to do. So I always want to put out the content that you guys want to hear. I want to cover the topics that are important to you guys. So I appreciate it. I'm way behind on these comments, you guys. It's going to take me a while to catch up. Yeah, action is always makes me feel better too when I'm actually doing something about it. So, Holly, my condolences. I'm really sorry that you had to try that. I'm sure it was horrible. And at some point, come over and I will give you some of the good stuff. Hey, Megan, being full-time coach and YouTuber, will you come out of the closet with your studio? Yes, actually, R1133 Rocco, that is part of the plan, is to get a better studio set up where I'm not confined in this tiny little closet. This has worked for the beginning and everything, but I do plan to come out of the closet fully and have a better space for podcasting that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing as well. So for me personally, I look at the videos and I'm like, I would like to see something different. So yeah, working on it. Reflection of me, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe this, and the universe alters to make way for better things. It wasn't working for you. This is, and I couldn't agree more. It's like 100%, such a wonderful change. And I'm super, super happy about it. Apples, I'm glad you're in excellent spirits and I hope you're feeling better soon. McSpunky, hush your mouth. That is horrible stuff. Do not drink any of that. It's terrible. Come over and I'll give you some good stuff. I'm so excited. Yeah, I don't have any, believe me, I have no desire to be famous. I like going to the grocery store in sweatpants and a bun. I just want to be an ordinary person, and I just want to be able to do extraordinary things for you lovely human beings over here. So no, terrible. Maybe I need to do an episode on what is good and what is not good. I I can't believe what I'm seeing here. It's kind of making me sad, honestly. I'm just kidding. Rando, thank you so much. This is so kind of you. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, there have been so many wonderful things that have come from the heinous crimes of those horrible people. And our community is healing in so many wonderful ways. And I love all of the positive things that have come out of that horrible group of people. So, Christmas in July sounds like fun. I bet they enjoyed it. Any chance anyone can reach out to them in order to come love on their mother? Oh yeah, no, they're great. They show up for me in amazing ways. And the great thing is I'm really real with my kids about how I'm feeling. If I'm having a down day, they always know it. I always let them know, and they're always super super kind to me. And my kids are wonderful, wonderful human beings. And although they're not like required to care for my mental health in any way, of course they are really good at showing up for me when I need a little extra hug or something. So my kids are great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, Tiff Knox, good timing and reading the room are skills not everyone has. So true. Yeah. What did we reveal? I think they already revealed it in their live. I'm sure I missed something in chat. I want someone to, Holly Fabiani, write Sarah Boone and read the letter out loud. Holly, will you email me about this? Because I always want to, I love telling people stories and doing things like this. So I'm interested. This is really intriguing. Is McSpunky a guest? I wouldn't say no. McSpunky, love to have you on. Email me, megan@third-verse.com. I am going to have Lauren Matthias on as a guest. I just confirmed with her yesterday. All we have to do is schedule it. That's the hard part with Lauren. She's super, super busy, and we're not anywhere near the same, space. So, would Uncle Rex and Adam come on, or do you even talk to them? I do talk to Uncle Rex from time to time. And I did ask Uncle Rex to collaborate on something at one point, and he did send me a lovely video. He wanted to collaborate with me on the project I was working on. It didn't end up coming to fruition, but I am going to revive it. It's going to come out in October. So we are going to collaborate on some things. I haven't talked much to Adam. I've talked to Rex and Adam at the memorial service, and we had a good conversation. I just get the feeling that they are super uncomfortable with some of the things that I talk about, which is totally understandable. They're both faithful members of the LDS Church. I'm very critical of the church because of my own experiences, and I think that makes them uncomfortable. And also, I see the family in a very different way than they do, and I think that makes them uncomfortable, which I totally understand. But I would be interested to have them on if they would come on. I don't know if they would, but maybe I'll reach out to them and see if there's some common ground that we can find, because I think there is. It's just a matter of working it out, Lauren, Texas, this job change is showing in your, sorry to use this word, countenance. You do look happy. I'm kind of relieved on many, many levels. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, Lauren does have some excellent things to share. I'm so, so excited for it. Watch out for portals. There will be no portals in my closet, I promise. Yes, I do. I am in my closet right now, and I can show you. Sometimes I give people a little sneak peek, like these are literally my clothes right here. This is my closet. I started doing this because I was recording my audiobook, which I also have not finished. But I will. It's now that I have even more free time, it's definitely going to happen. Yeah, this would be so fun. It would be so fun, Holly, to do a blind tasting. I would have to do it as, number one, I'd have to do it as members only. And number two, I would have to do it non-monetized because YouTube wouldn't absolutely not allow it. So I'm interested. I am more than happy to do it. I have some excellent things that I would love to share with you guys. So if anybody is interested in this, what Holly Fabiani is saying on the screen right now, I'm not going to mention it out loud. But if you're interested in this, please email me, megan@third-verse.com. We will set up a time and absolutely get it done. And maybe I'll even get Samuel to come on if it's a members only. He's been kind of shy about wanting to come on, and I get it. You are an ordinary person. I think that's why I find you so helpful. You're an ordinary person who has risen above yuckiness. This is somehow the best compliment I think I could possibly receive. Thank you so much, Martha T. I agree 100%. There's nothing extraordinary about me. I'm just a regular old person who just has been through some crazy stuff and decided to try and get over it in a healthy way. I don't know. Doing my best over here. Would you consider an interview? Destiny, good to see you again. It's been a while. Um, would you consider an interview with a non-LDS therapist slash author about her upcoming memoir on spiritual abuse? Yes, I would. Please email me, megan@third-verse.com. I'm going to keep putting that out there. Nikki D68, I left my job the exact same way. I didn't even have one to transition into. I also worked in fraud, so this is very interesting. Yeah, I've had a couple of visits with the FBI. It's been very interesting, and I thought for a little bit, like, it might be interesting to, like, collaborate with the FBI and try to help them understand the multi-billion-dollar fraud industry that is happening with fuel trade. But sadly, I learned from sad experience that the FBI, at least the people that I spoke with, they had very strict requirements as to what cases they were allowed to work on, and a lot of it has to do with the likelihood of conviction and whether they were going to where the likelihood of recovering monetary damages. So anyway, that was disappointing to find out, but it's something to look into. It's interesting. Speaking of Chad and Lori, Sarah Bishkin, do you believe that Lori is aware that Chad got sentenced to death? I'm sure she is. I'm sure that somebody has told her at this point. I know she's talking regularly to family members, so I'm sure they've shared that with her. I wonder how she feels about it. I obviously had strong feelings about it. I made private and then took down my video after the sentencing. But I'm going to re-edit it and repost it because my feelings about it have really evolved, and I think it's a conversation that we need to have. So I mean, you're on, Spunky. Everybody's asking for it. Everybody's saying, this would be amazing. 100% would watch. Yeah, please have your people call me because I don't have people. Just have them call me. If you're already gone, R1133, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Sarah, do you believe Lori has the presence of mind to appreciate that she too could have gotten the death penalty and her attorneys not gotten her off the hook? I honestly don't know, but it's interesting to contemplate. I think Lori is just arrogant enough to believe that she did not deserve the death penalty, and obviously from her allocution statement. So I really think that it probably didn't faze her at all. She probably didn't think about it at all. She probably just thought, well, of course, I'm not going to get the death penalty. Latter Daily Digest, thank you. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here. Just trying to make sure I cover all the questions. Nope, it's not a wall. It's my real clothes back there. I'm 100%. I think this would be super fun. I would love it. Yeah, this would be great. I try to be pretty grounded. There's not a whole lot that rattles me. My kids going through difficult things, or my kids being sick, or things like that rattles me for sure. Things in my primary relationship not going well, that rattles me for sure. But almost everything else, it's kind of like, the things that are the most important to me in my life these days are my primary relationships with my partner, with my children, and that's where I want to put my focus and my priorities, and everything else is like a bump in the road. And if it prevents me from spending time with those people, yeah, I'm going to be mad about it for sure. But other than that, it's to me that those are the most important things to me right now are to savor those relationships and savor the time that I have with the people that I love, and also savor the sights and sounds of nature and beautiful food and good drinks and things like that. Just savor all of that stuff. Everything else is secondary. Um, yeah, the getting over it in a healthy way is what's different rather than kind of spiraling and being upset. Dom's mom, great to see you tonight. Would you consider doing a series on recovery with a guest from different 12-step programs, therapists, meditation gurus, whatever, different methods? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have I'd love to have guests who have been through 12-step recovery. I'd love to have guests who have overcome addictions of any kind, substance use disorder or any of that stuff. I would love to have that. Yeah. So again, Megan at third-first.com. I will accept all inquiries for guests. Tiff, I had some of this last weekend. I've had it a couple of times before where I've paid a lot of money for it. And I have to honestly say, really doesn't live up to the hype. It is pretty good, but there are things that I enjoy better. And maybe it's just because I have different tastes than other people, but that's something we can talk about on an episode if we do it. So thank you, Latter Daily Digest, for the support. Share, like, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Sunstone on Tuesday. Wow, I wish I would have known about this. I would have maybe tried to go, but there's too craziness going on. But I'm looking forward to hearing from you about what's happening at the conference. Would you consider possibly doing a live with me from the conference and letting me know what's going on? I think that would be an interesting episode. Tell Samuel not to be shy. We're just family over here. Yeah. I think he just doesn't want to be searchable on the internet. I get it. Sarah, with all this Lori questions tonight, it's okay. There's something I once read that has been both eaten away at me and baffled about. Sure, go ahead. Ask. If I see it down there, I'll put it up there. Lori in Texas, those of us who have experienced severe trauma are learning to let the BS go. So many beautiful things to, yes, experience, do, all of that stuff. Yes. Yeah, beautiful world to enjoy and not having to worry about, all of the BS that goes around it. All right, beautiful humans, we are at an hour and 27 minutes. I talked for a really long time. Now I want to hear what your intentions are for the week. What are you going to focus on? How are you going to make your week better? What are the things that you're going to do to take care of yourself this week and to make sure that you get what you need? I want to hear all about it. Put it in the comments if you can. We'll stay for a few more minutes for people to share. If you want to share, if you don't want it to be put on the screen, just say private intention. If you do want it to be put on the screen, you can just put it in the comments and I'd be happy to share it with everyone. I love when we come together and support each other. If anybody's going through any kind of difficult time, we're here to support you. Tell us if you need extra hugs, extra support, just virtual hugs, whatever you need, put it in there. So here's Sarah's question. For my own well-being, I read that when Lori was first arrested in Hawaii, she was supposedly told an inmate that essentially that they would be crazy to keep her behind bars, that she was too hot. Oh, goodness. I just have to laugh. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never heard that before. If you have like a news article or video or something that you can send me, I'd be happy to review it. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me, but it's kind of silly as well. It's just, the self-importance of a comment like that. If there's more to this question, please let me know. Oh, okay. So Sarah, that it would be a shame and a waste. Does this seem possible? Yeah, totally. What a waste to put this hotness behind bars. I should be out in the public, doing pageants. I'm sorry for being flippant about it, but it is kind of just the ridiculousness of that kind of self-importance of thinking that you're above the law because of what you look like. But it totally tracks with how she was raised and the family's, putting so much importance on personal appearance. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. And it is also kind of disturbing and sad as well. Yeah, this is a good idea. I like this. I'm gonna float this idea and we'll see. Okay, Diana simplifies. Intentions for the week, continuing to declutter photos. Oh, yes, I feel this. It's been exhausting so far. I have still boxes of photos from my kids' childhood from 2001 until about 2014, 13 or 14 when I started storing photos on my phone. So I feel you. It's a daunting task. Um, I used to do photo organization as a side job, and that's an episode for another time as well. But I can give you a couple of tips if you're interested. Get rid of all of your duplicates. Um, I would say don't crop the photos unless a small crop would make the focus of the photo better. And I would also say just keep it super simple. Just a photo on a white background with a little blurb at the bottom of the time, place, and people that were in the photo. I would say keep it really simple and don't try to get super extravagant with how you put them together because what people care about is seeing the pictures. They don't really care about the craftiness of adding extra stuff and stickers and things like that. Just to get it done, keep it simple. That's my advice if you want it, and if you don't, throw it in the trash. So, um, reflections of me, my intention this week is to get back on track, start my daily exercising again, wake up every day positive and stay that way. I love this. I love this waking up positive. Often when I make the decision to get out of bed, I get so excited about the prospect of getting out of bed. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, when my feet hit the floor, I just get this rush of energy and I'm just like so excited to get going. And so I'm with you on this one. I too have an intention to get back in the gym and lift weights this week. I've been doing lots of other kinds of exercise and walking and things like that, but I have an intention to get back to my weightlifting because I miss it and I want to do better at it. So thank you for reminding me that needs to be an intention. Um, Diane L. Yeah, I think a lot of us have photos somewhere on some level that we need to get ready or get, you know, go through. Um, and organize. Tiff Knox, I'm going to enjoy having the house to myself since my uncle is going to Hawaii. Ooh, yay, alone time for the win. Quiet. Work on making some new jewelry for my Etsy shop. That's amazing, Tiff. Will you share with me your Etsy shop? I'd be happy to post it on the channel and share it with everyone. I'd love to visit it myself. And I love quiet time. Yes, just having time for yourself and space for yourself to do whatever you want. Martha T, get my hands in the dirt, teaching my kids how to plant seeds and compost and watch their joy as they see things growing. I absolutely love this for you. I've been digging in the dirt with my hands. Also, my nail tech is going to be furious with me because I kind of ruined a few of my nails digging out that stump yesterday and then pulling weeds today. But I feel like I'm getting my yard in shape and I'm just feeling this lovely peace about being outside and working in the yard in the dirt and planting and trimming and planning for what I'm going to plant in my garden and all of that. So I love this for you. I think it's wonderful. Um, Apples, my intention is to not beat myself up when I can't get up and to be okay with living in pajamas. And I'm with you 100% on this too. Anytime that you can't get out of bed, it's okay. We all need that time and space to just give ourselves grace to rest and recover and to just be how we're going to be without shaming ourselves for not accomplishing things. So I love this for you and thank you. Um, Sarah says, thank you so much for confirming that it actually seems plausible. You don't know what a relief it is. Sorry, personally healing from narcissistic abuse. Yeah, see some of my family members. Yeah, yeah. When looking at Lori, seeing some of your family members, it can be really hard to see such a toxic person in the public that reminds you of family members that you have at home because it's scary and it definitely it can be triggering. So I am with you on that and I'm glad that I could answer your question. And I'm happy to, it's the reason I'm happy to talk about Lori and talk about the case is because I think it hits a lot of people on a personal level. And Lauren and I were talking about this yesterday, Lauren Matthias from Hidden True Crime. We were talking about the fact that people's fascination with true crime is has a little bit to do with our existential fear of death because it's a little bit of survival. Like, what do I need to do to not die? And we look at these monsters in true crime and we see little traits of them in the people that are in our real life, and it gives us a little bit of like warning, protection, like you need to watch out for this person, they're not healthy, things like that. And so I think that's part of the reason people are fascinated with true crime, and it's the reason I'm willing to talk about it, because learning to identify Lori's behaviors sooner and hold her accountable sooner could have prevented things possibly. And I just want people to be aware. There are traits, there are signs, there are warning signs. So that's why I keep talking about it. Um, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate this. And, I've never been a coffee drinker, but I totally identify with that warm cup of something in the morning to sort of get you going. You know what? I had more mushrooms show up in my garden again, and they were a completely different kind. They were at a completely different place. And I had to go through that thing all over again of like figuring out, are these safe mushrooms? Are they not safe mushrooms? Of course, I always just pull them out. I take a picture of them and then I throw them away. But I want to know, why do I keep getting mushrooms in my garden? If anybody out there is a mycologist, please help me understand. Oh, goodness. Yes, please validate not doing stuff. It is totally okay. Totally okay. Um, just storing in boxes, not doing much labeling either. Yeah, I think all it is like future generations looking at those pictures are just going to want to know like what year it was, who was in the picture, maybe how old they were, the location the picture was taken, maybe the circumstances. You don't have to get super fancy with it. So, Holly, my intention is to get another crappy hair job. Not looking forward to it. Oh no, do you have a bad hairstylist? I hate it. Oh, are you getting a job that is a crappy job that's styling hair or something? Let me help you out. Like, let's talk. Let's figure out something you like better than that. Um, Apples, there's an app called PhotoMine that helps with quick digitization. If you're not feeling like, oh, this is something, you've got something here. I may want to check into this because I've got too many. Um, Destiny, my life has kind of fallen apart slowly over the summer. Barely been able to leave my house safely because of road construction and my power wheelchair. Emotionally, it hurts. And I feel this. It's so, so hard when you are homebound and you don't have a way to get out and about and enjoy people and places and things like that. So I hope that you find ways to, I mean, maybe there are some documentaries you can watch about things that interest you, or maybe there are some books that you can read. I get it, like nothing can substitute that getting out and about, but I hope you find some ways to do some self-care anyway that will help you feel better about being at home. Um, Top of that, my financial situation is a mess because of it. Yeah, I get that too, and that can really be stressful. I found for myself that back when I first didn't get paid on payday, I just went through my finances and decided to simplify things a lot. And I got rid of a bunch of subscriptions that I was either only half using or that I felt were not valuable to me anymore. And I stopped a bunch of auto pay. I took almost everything off of auto pay and made it an intention to physically do the act of paying the bill, because to me, that made it more real, spending that money. Getting control of my budget in that way really made me feel a lot safer. So I know that it's scary to look at your budget when you're feeling stressed about money, but that's one of the things I love to help people with, because I think it's a great way to get some grounding and to start to feel like you have more control over things. So, um, video footage of her singing karaoke along with her sister. Totally had a moment like that with my own mother. Yeah, there are some scary videos out there. Was it Lori in Summer? I think. This is totally a safe place to share. We're very supportive. This is one of the nicest comment sections on all of YouTube. Yeah, the psychology is fascinating to me. Okay. Holly, I doubt that you're a bad hairstylist. But if it's not something that you love, maybe let's talk about finding something you do love. Um, okay, so I accidentally kicked myself out of my own studio, guys. I'm sorry. I was just trying to get to comments. Um, Patty Clark, thank you for sharing. With a lot of dying in my family and friends, I've been down and out for years, but finally made it out to a concert. Oh, wonderful. I have missed life. So just give it time. Yeah, give yourself time, give yourself grace, give yourself space. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. Wherever you are is absolutely okay. And whatever you're doing to get through your day to day is absolutely okay. And I had to get to the point where I had to forgive myself for everything that I did to cope with the trauma that I went through, and recognize that even though I'm not where I could have been without the trauma, that where I am is absolutely okay. And I have made peace with that, and I hope that you can too. So I appreciate you. Also have a narc brother who's holding up the trust, 2 years no, off to court again in October, just need it to be over with. Yeah, litigation is so stressful, and I can imagine family dynamics and finances being all wrapped up together. That must be really hard. So we're here for you. We're here with you, supporting you. You will get through it. Yes, be kind to yourself always. You're the only person who cares about you as much as you do. So love yourself for who you are and where you are, and be kind to yourself and stop shaming yourself for not being something different than you are. Just love yourself where you are. Holly giving support for Patty Clark. Thank you. I appreciate that. Destiny, that's just it. If I can't get out to even do groceries or check the mail, and people say that they want to help, get mad when they have to, life sucks. It's making me feel trapped and unsafe. Yeah, I'm trying to understand. People that say they want to help get mad when they have to. Yeah, I get that. So I'm sorry, Destiny, and I hope things get better for you really soon. If there's anything we can do to support you, I'm happy to, if there's anything that'll make it better for you. So, Inner Peas, only one more week off from work, going to the beach at least twice. Yes, do it. Are you by chance maybe a school teacher and having to go back to school? Because I know what that feels like. Goodness. All right, beautiful human beings. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm super tired. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to say one more time that I really appreciate everybody's support of the channel. Thank you so much for all that you do and for showing up for each other in the chat, because that's what makes this community what it is. I absolutely love connecting with you guys. And again, if you want to talk to me live on video chat for 15 or 20 minutes about someplace you're stuck, even if you don't want to sign up for coaching or you can't afford it right now, I'm always happy to connect with people. I love hearing people's stories. I love hearing the things that you're going through and the ways that you are being courageous in your lives. I really enjoy connecting with you guys so much. I am going to edit this down into podcast format and re-release it on all of my podcast platforms probably Tuesday, as I'm thinking I can edit Monday and probably release it on Tuesday. So I really appreciate your support. I will be back on Wednesday with a new podcast episode. Thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing to support the channel. Please continue to just show up and interact with things, and I really appreciate just that. Thank you so much to Ashley for being here moderating. Thank you to all of you for being here, everyone who contributed and everyone who liked the episode and everyone who subscribed in the super chats. I really appreciate all of you guys so much, and I can't wait to talk to you again. I may just do some surprise lives because I might just decide to jump on because I'm going to have some downtime that I'm not used to. So I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for everything. You have made this very scary transition in my life really peaceful and something that I'm excited about and looking forward to. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for being beautiful human beings. Please be good to each other, but most of all, what am I going to say? Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You deserve it. You're worthy. Love you guys.